Good morning to all of you. In today's lecture session, we will discuss in detail regarding the phytochemical fingerprinting. This is a very important topic in our pharmacognosy syllabus, the phytochemistry MPG 103. This is unit number 4. Okay. So here, what we are going to see is, because in pharmacognosy or in natural product industry, we either deal with directly plants or plant products, and in either of these cases a lot of chances are there that quality issues may arise. Okay, so for evaluation of quality we needed some robust mechanisms where we can get dependable results. So there because multiple chemicals will be there in plants, so we use the term fingerprinting. And one of the tools that we are going to see today is HPTLC. Okay. So in this syllabus, what we have is the application of some of the chromatography techniques like HPTLC, LCMS or GCMS in the characterization of herbal extracts, especially herbal extracts. Okay, this is what we are going to say. This will go into the next unit. So normally, what kind of problems that arise in case of herbal industry is what we have to see in the beginning. So the problems with the herbs is, one is authentication. Okay, so in the authentication part, one need to have very good grip on the botany part. Okay, botany part means how to identify a plant by using the various techniques like microscopy and observation of plant description, etc. So plant phylogeny, that study will be there. A botanist is going to do that job, but as a pharmacognosy person we also need to have some idea. Okay, but here authentication problem will always arise, because if you change place, if you change altitude, if you change the temperature, etc., there is every possibility that a little bit of physical description of plant may change sometimes. So authentication is one big challenge. In authentication itself, okay, so genuine and exhausted. So this is a unique problem, especially felt by the herbal drug industry. Means the plant is original only, but it was exhausted. Okay, so when it is exhausted, like piperin, you take pepper. Okay, pepper seeds. So if you take pepper seeds, if you soak pepper seeds in any organic solvent like ethyl acetate or a chloroform for some time, all the oil part non-polar components can be easily extracted into the solvent. So thereby the original description of the physical features that are actually the characteristic features of a seed are going to remain, whereas the chemical constituents are gone. Okay, so this is one big problem, authentic material, obtaining authentic material. The second one is identity crisis will come. Identity crisis will come in case of unorganized drugs, unorganized forms, unorganized drugs and formulations like Thailas, Lehias, Aristar, etc. Because in this case you will see the plant, so plant can be easily taken to a botanist so that identification can happen. Whereas in case of identity is going to be a crisis in case of unorganized drugs and also in case of formulations. In case of unorganized, you will have powders, either single or mixed powders will be there. and also extracts can also be there. Extracts, oils, etc. will also be there. So how can you identify authenticity of powders and extracts? In case of powders, we have powder microscopy is there. Powder microscopy is there. So in powder microscopy, let's say if more than one powders are mixed, then what to do? So in that case, what we have to do is uh, multiple microscopic parameters are to be evaluated. So that is going to become a big challenge. One second. So multiple powders when they are mixed, multiple powder microscopy is going to be a very big challenge as far as authentication is concerned. And if it goes into the form of an extract, the problems are going to become multiplied, okay, exponential, I can say. Because if you take herbal extracts of many materials, sometimes they smell like the same, they look like the same, they taste like the same. So physicochemical features, etc., are not going to help you in any way. Okay. So this is the reason why. So earlier, maybe in pharmacognosy, you might have studied in your B.Pharm.C. the way how they are classified according to pharmacological actions, and then uh, plant parts, botanicals, etc. But what is the latest trend? Latest trend is chemotaxonomy. Chemotaxonomy. Okay. So a plant gets its value. Let's say if you say Tulsi is very good as far as its health benefits are concerned, it is not Tulsi plant as such. Okay. The secondary metabolites produced by Tulsi plant are actually biologically active, and all other remaining physical features that we can see as far as Tulsi plant is concerned, so they are only assisting us in obtaining the secondary metabolites. Okay, so it is like that. So this is the one reason why all other classifications or all other means of authentication are now dominated by chemical means of identification. Now what is it that we need to know is the chemistry of the plant material, chemistry of the plant material, or chemistry of the extract or powder, or chemistry of formulation. Chemistry of formulation. So if you study chemistry of plant, okay, so that gives authenticity. If you study chemistry of an extract or a powder, that also gives authenticity information. And if you study chemistry of a formulation for presence of certain chemicals, that gives authentication. What is the meaning of this? Let's say if you take pepper, okay? So if pepper is there, how can you identify pepper plant material if piperin is there? If piperin is there in the plant material in appropriate quantity, okay? As you all knew, a plant when it is aging, okay, when it is growing, its chemistry will also alter. All the natural products will attain optimal quantity of chemicals, appropriate chemicals, okay, at appropriate period of time. Okay, before that time or beyond that time, you cannot see optimal presence of a peculiar chemical components. Okay, let's say if you see flowers, when they are in the bud stage or too much exposed to sun, in either of these cases you cannot find much fragrance. But when a flower is fully bloomed, so then only you will see appropriate smell coming from that plant form. Okay, so in the same way, pepper, if you take when it is matured appropriately, then only piperin you can see. So in that way, if you study piperin as a diagnostic chemical. Okay, so if you can find out the diagnostic chemicals, or we use the technical term marker compounds. Then if you study presence or absence of this marker compound, it can tell you whether a plant product or plant material or plant extract, or if a formulation, if it is said to have pepper as an ingredient. In all these cases, presence or absence of pepper can be easily studied by identifying piperin in the plant part or the extract or the formulation. Okay, so that is the reason why right now in the herbal drug industry throughout the world, chemical identification or marker chemical identification became the gold standard for authentication, identification, and evaluation of herbal materials and formulations. Okay, so that actually reflects in increase in chemical means of identification and authentication of herbal materials. That is what we can see in various pharmacopoeias, including USP, European Pharmacopoeia, etc., etc. Okay. Even in our Ayurvedic Pharmacopoeia also, you can see clearly that many of the herbal formulations like Asavas, Aristas, Arjuna Arista, etc. are authenticated by means of chemical identification, either directly or indirectly. Okay, so that is the preamble for considering chemicals as a criteria, presence of a marker chemicals as a criteria for authentication and standardization of herbal materials. Okay, so now, so why chromatography? Why chromatography? And why PLC? Okay, so I presume that all of you have seen at least one experiment of, or at least you have seen at least one type of chromatography technique. Yes or no? Do you know what is TLC? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Very good, very good. Okay. So in case of chromatography, what is the problem that is there in herbal materials or herbal formulations or etc.? A herb is a plant product. Okay, herbal material is either plant totally or a part of the plant. It contains multiple chemicals. It is not only a single marker compound. Okay, multiple chemicals will be there. Second one is, with the season, its chemistry will change. With the season, the chemistry will change. Multiple parameters, including storage conditions and aging, etc., also can reflect in the chemicals. Okay, so main thing is multiple chemicals and diversified factors which can influence all these chemicals is what is one of the big challenge as far as analysis is concerned. Let's say if you take aspirin tablet. So what can be there in aspirin tablet? You can have aspirin, okay, one chemical, and then you can have excipients like starch can be there, and you can have a glidant. This much should be sufficient for preparing aspirin tablet. Okay, so the chemistry is relatively simple, and we all knew what is there in the preparation of aspirin tablet. So we all knew the chemistry of aspirin. So you can design a assay procedure to detect only this single component by using acid-base titration or UV visible method. And now we can have even HPLC methods are also there. Okay. But in case of a plant, we have multiple chemicals. Multiple chemicals means you can have at a time more than 10 compounds can be there. We have unknown chemistry. So this is also very important. Sometimes the chemistry is unknown. Okay. So I'll put before you one typical example. Recently, we have seen such certain herbal products being proposed as a treatment to manage, or not as a treatment, but to manage COVID. Okay, some herbal products. What they are doing? First herb, second herb, third herb, fourth herb. They are mixing. They are heating by using honey. Heat for about 2 to 4 hours, and then they are getting the product. They are getting the product. Now imagine what can happen to the chemistry of the first product, second product, third product, and fourth product, including honey. We have the original chemical constituents or important chemical constituents of the herb 1, 2, 3, 4, as well as honey. Okay. But upon heating, what is happening, we don't know. What is happening, we don't know. Okay. So you can have acidic compounds can be there, basic compounds can be there, and thermolabile compounds can be there, thermostable compounds can be there, and some of them will have double bonds, rearrangements can happen. You cannot imagine. So this gives a very complex chemistry. Sometimes degradation can happen, sometimes fusion can happen. Okay, so novel chemicals are going to arise out of this exercise. Then what to do? How can you predict the chemistry, or how can you represent the complexity? Okay, so if it is very complex, it is really difficult for us to evaluate, because we have absolutely no idea on which chemical. Okay, let's imagine that 1, 2, 3, 4 are providing one major chemical for towards this particular product formation. Now we don't know how many products are going to come. 1, 2, 3, 4. All these 4, some of them will remain the same, and then you can also have 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So these are newly formed products. These are actually added through 1, 2, 3, 4. These herbs. Now we have many compounds are there. So when we have so many compounds in a product, and if we are asked to provide data by simply doing simultaneous estimation, then it is going to be a very big challenge, because by using volumetric analysis, we cannot do the job, and by using HPLC, it has its own limitations, because even if you use either single mobile phase, or if you gradually alter the mobile phase, it will have its own problem, because highly lipophilic molecules and highly hydrophobic molecules, they tend to stick on to the column. Okay, so that's the reason why by using appropriate column, there will be a range of secondary metabolites or chemicals will be there that can be easily studied. I don't mean to say that HPLC or any other technique is either superior or inferior. Okay, they will have their own limitations. But in case of HPLC, I presume that you know HPLC. Okay, it's a very important topic in B.Pharm.C. itself. So when you are trying to estimate compounds by using traditional volumetric type of analysis, it is close to impossible. So when we have a single compound itself, it is a really tough task. So when we have a very much complicated structure like this, like 10 compounds together, if they are there, then in what basis you can standardize? That is a big question. I hope all of you are following me. So what is the problem now? Complex chemistry. Okay. So every big problem will bring a very big opportunity for us. Okay, so in case of complex chemistry, the problem is evaluation, either qualitative or quantitative evaluation of individual compounds. So in the last slide, we have seen like we have compounds from 1 to 10 are there in a herbal product. Okay. So the challenge is evaluation of individual compounds. So this is the challenge. So in another way, if you are able to study, so because presence of complex chemicals in a unique combination will give something like a fingerprint. Okay, something like a fingerprint. So this particular formation of complex chemistry, okay, for a compound, like for example, you say take the example of the herbal medicines used for or proposed for COVID therapy. Okay, so a person, if he or she is preparing that herbal medicine for a specific purpose, so that person will be using same herbal material all the time. Okay. So when they are using same procedure, same materials, then obviously the complexity of the chemistry that is going to be there in the product shall remain constant. So in that way, this complex chemistry can also be taken into consideration for evaluation in the form of a fingerprint. So now, how can you get this fingerprint? Now our objective is not to evaluate individual compounds, but to see only the fingerprint. Okay. So if possible, we will go for evaluation of the individual compounds. Okay. So at this juncture, we got a very good technique which was used for obtaining information regarding the complicated chemistry of any herbal material or anything like that. Okay. So that method is what we call it as TLC or thin layer chromatography. So basically what happens in TLC is, in chromatography, so if you see the principle of chromatography, it is more like this. So you are moving on a road. Okay. So we are 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 of the friends are moving in this direction. Okay. So the movement depends on, one is your intention to move in this direction. The second one is your attraction towards the stationary phase, your attraction towards the road. Okay. So one of you will stop over here and another will stop over here. The next one will stop over here and one more person will stop over here. Okay. So let's say you are moving in this direction. So after reaching this point, you can no more move. So you stop here. The second one stopped here, third one stopped here, and fourth one stopped here. Okay, so this is the way how in TLC compounds are retained. So here, in case of chromatography, what happens is you will have two things here. One is stationary phase. The next one is mobile phase. Okay, mobile phase is nothing but a solvent. Stationary phase is nothing but a physical support that is given for compounds to move through via capillary force. Okay. So it is more like a silica gel, SiO2, and solvent may be hexane or something like that. Okay. So if you have a compound here, that compound is attracted by the silicon dioxide as well as the solvent, okay. Then if the compound shows more solubility in hexane or is more strongly attracted towards hexane rather than silicon dioxide, what will happen? Okay, so when it is moving in this direction, because the compound is constantly interacting with the stationary phase as well as mobile phase. Okay, so when it is moving in this direction, after reaching some point, okay, because all these are together in the beginning, okay, so multiple interactions are going to influence on the solubility criteria of all the individual components. So when they are moving in this direction, so there will be domination from silicon dioxide rather than hexane. So at one point, the compound feel more attracted towards the stationary phase, and then it will stop from moving. Okay. So you can have another compound can be there which is relatively more attracted towards solvent rather than the stationary phase. It will stop at a much later position. So same is the situation with the other chemicals. Okay. So among these four, the compound number 4 is highly attracted towards hexane rather than silicon dioxide. So here, on what basis we are trying to separate the compounds? Their differential adsorption capacity. Okay, so differential adsorption capacity onto the stationary phase. So when a mobile phase is there, it's a differential. Every compound will have their own capacity to interact with the stationary phase. In the trivial term we use here is, technical term we use here is adsorption. Okay, so here if you take in this condition, so hexane is lipophilic. So if the compound number 4 stayed with hexane, because the movement is happening like this, so compound number 4 stayed with hexane, so compound number 4 is highly polar or non-polar? Compound number 4 is highly non-polar. Okay. Next to this one is this, and this is, among these four, this is polar. So in this way, the separations are happening. This is in brief how TLC works. Okay. So normally, this is a very simple exercise. The TLC is a very simple exercise. You take a plate coated with stationary phase. Normally, we use silica gel. We have different types of mobile stationary phases are there, like silica gels, modified silica gels, aluminas, Kieselguhr, and various other stationary phases are there. Then we add a solvent here. Compound spots are applied over here and here. So compound spots are applied over here and here, and then we will allow the solvent to move through the silica gel layer. Then after some time we take out the plate, and then let's say if the solvent moved up to this, okay, up to this, then what we will do? We'll take out the plate. And then use one or the other technique like fluorescence or absorbance, UV, etc. Or we give developing reagents or TLC reagents. We call them as developing reagents. Okay. Reagents like we can use sulfuric acid and various other developing reagents are there. Iodine chamber can be used, iodine vapors, or Dragendorf reagent, okay, etc. So many different reagents are there. We can spray and then see how many spots are there, and what is the thickness of the spot, etc. So from TLC, what we can get, let's say if we are applying two spots and mobile phase went up to this one. This is, let's imagine this is a routine. Okay. Routine will give a spot over here, and this is the herbal extract. So let's imagine that here we have so many spots are there and another spot is over here. So what is the meaning of this? The two spots are having same RF value. So you can say that a herbal extract contains rutin. Okay. So in this way, this is one way you can use TLC. So this is the way how the TLC has an intrinsic advantage of looking at the fingerprint. If you look at this one, it looks more like a fingerprint, and this is the marker substance. Okay, so let's say if you go to HPLC, in HPLC you will have a column, you'll have an injection port will be there. From here the sample will be going like this, and here the compound is going to be separated, the mixture is going to be separated, and that will go through a detector, and from the detector we get signal, and accordingly, okay, at different time periods, okay, it will come like this. So this is the time scale, and this is a parameter which represents quantity, absorbance, etc. So here also, if you look at the picture, this is the test sample, and this is the standard sample, and if the RT, this is time. Okay, so retention time for this and retention time for this, if both are matching, you can say that a particular mixture contained the marker substance. Okay, so here also we are going to get the fingerprint, and in TLC also we are going to get the fingerprint in a very nice manner. But what is the reason why HPTLC is dominating in herbal drug industry? Okay, so in herbal drug industry, 99% of the cases they rely on HPTLC or TLC based screening mechanisms. Okay, because in case of column chromatography, you are injecting a sample which contains varied polar compounds. So when you are running the column, this column is made up of C18, or various types of columns can be there. Normal phase columns and reverse phase columns can also be there. In most of the cases, you will find reverse phased columns like silica gel attached to a 18 carbon containing chain, so that it will become more lipophilic. So this type of columns are actually dominating in the market. In a plant product, we cannot guess whether the compounds are all lipophilic or hydrophilic, or how many are in the medium polar region. So when you have injected the herbal extract directly, what will happen? Because the herbal extract contains both lipophilic chemicals as well as hydrophilic chemicals. So because this is non-polar, so you will find highly non-polar molecules in your herbal extract being retained in the column for more time. So if it is retained more time, what will happen is, in the column chromatogram, you will find it will go on like this, because some of the chemicals may never come out. And the second thing is, usually in case of herbal extracts, they use one more column. This is what we call it as guard column. In guard column also, a little bit of loss of chemicals can be there. So that's the reason why whenever we take a herbal extract, the most preferred means of evaluation is the TLC based mechanisms. But when a pure sample or reasonably or a small fraction, okay, fraction, it is not extract. From extract, let's say a 50% ethyl acetate by hexane fraction, if it is taken selectively, so that type of materials are actually screened by using HPLC. Pure samples, like pure compounds like rutin. If rutin is supplied, rutin can be evaluated by using HPLC. Absolutely no problem. Okay. So this is the basic difference. Now, is it clear to all of you what I am explaining?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Yes,
Now we
sir.
will go to HPTLC. Okay. So in case of TLC and HPTLC, very small difference will be there. Okay. So this is about TLC, this is about HPTLC, but you need not focus on the sizes, etc. But very, very important parameter that you have to bother more is about the particle size. Okay. So if you reduce the particle size, what will happen? If you reduce the particle size, okay, if you reduce it, it increases surface area, it increases interaction between compound, and then it increases resolution. It increases resolution. Okay, so this is what we have to understand from particle size. Okay, so if you look at the HPLC and the flash chromatograph and ordinary gravity based column and ultra HPLC, if you take all the columns, okay, so the size of the particle that is used in the columns, they are going to change. They are going to change significantly. If you reduce the particle size, it is going to become more thick, as well as more interaction can be there. Back pressure will also be more in case of HPLC. The next one is particle size distribution, because the regular TLC that we use, TLC powder that we use in the lab. So once you come back to the campus, you will also prepare TLC plates. Some of TLC plates are available commercially. But here, particle size distribution is random, relatively random, and we give not very much importance to that one. Whereas in case of HPTLC, just like in case of analytical HPLC, okay, the particle size distribution must be narrow, so that if you take a plate, so everywhere the particle size shall remain constant, so that at every point the physicochemical features of the environment will be uniform. So unless the environment is uniform, we cannot do the mathematical operations, like analytical operations cannot be done. So that is another very, very important difference between TLC and HPTLC. And the next important thing is the thickness. The thickness. Layer thickness is almost half, 100 to 200 micrometer for HPTLC, whereas in TLC, 250 micrometer or slightly more than that one will be there. That too, the layer will be more uniform, okay, in case of HPTLC. So less thickness, more capillary flow, less time. Okay, because when the thickness is more, the degrees of freedom given to solvent to move will be more. So when degrees of freedom are more, what will happen to the rate of flow of the reaction, rate of flow of the solvent, that will be compromised. So in that way, when you increase the thickness of the layer, the speed of movement or flow rate through the TLC plate will be reduced. So that is what is reflecting over here. So the development, the TLC plate development takes about half an hour to 3 hours in this case. In case of HPTLC, 10 to 30 minutes. 30 minutes is a is a very high number, but usually 10 minutes should be sufficient. And as we are using less thickness and very less no duration or the length of the plate, here the TLC plate is 10 by 20 by 20, whereas here the 10 centimeters track is enough for resolution of the sample. Usually 6 or 7 centimeters should be sufficient for HPTLC resolution of complex mixtures. So that is the reason why we needed very less solvent for running every sample. The next one is the detection. So by using absorbance or fluorescence, the detection, especially in case of TLC, is in the 100 to 1000 nanograms, means 1 milligram per 1 milligram. Sorry, 1 microgram. 0.1 to 1 microgram. Whereas in this case, in case of HPTLC, we can go by simply choosing appropriate detection system. If you have fluorescence detection system, you can go up to 0.1 nanogram level. 0.1 nanogram level for detection of any sample. Okay, so this is what gives a lot of scope for evaluation of herbal materials, because in case of herbal materials, you will have very complicated chemical mixtures will be there. So intrinsically, TLC has the capacity to separate the type of chemical so that it gives something like a signature, okay, or a fingerprint, and it is needing very less time so that high throughput screening can be done. More samples can be evaluated per day, and it is scalable. Okay, if you have one chamber, in one chamber we can keep up to 15 plates can be kept. So you will have, like in case of TLC chamber, it is like this. Okay, so here you will have grooves, so that in the groove you can keep the plate. In every groove you can keep the plate, so that you can keep number of plates, because the thickness is very less. More number of plates can be done. So at a time you can do 15 and extracts analysis. So if you look at this time period, okay, so let's imagine that you are working on HPLC. If the runtime, especially for herbal materials, it will be around 10 minutes. 10 minutes, 1 ml per minute or something like that. Then you will have wash time. Okay, so you have to wash the column all the time. Then it takes a lot of time. And in case of HPLC, you can do one injection per time. Okay, per sample only. So per round you can give only one injection. Whereas in case of HPTLC, at a time you have a space for keeping 15 plates. And also, if you look at the length of the plate, it is 20 centimeters. Okay, if you give 1 centimeter gap between every band that we are applying over here, you can at least keep 10 samples on this plate. 10 samples. Okay, I'll show you some of the examples so that you will come to know about this. 10 samples means 10 samples into how many? 15 plates. So literally you can evaluate 150 samples by simply using HPTLC, a single chamber, and then same set of environments. Okay, so if you are in bulk production, so many batches of samples will come. So at that point, to evaluate every batch of sample, you need not wait for more time. Okay, so by using this type of high throughput screening, which is scalable, you can easily evaluate number of samples. Okay, so in case of HPLC, let's say if you wanted to increase the number of samples, you have to simply buy another instrument. If you have 5 HPLC instruments, you can do 5 samples in such a limited time. Okay, otherwise you have to develop a method. It goes on like that. Okay, so HPTLC has an intrinsic advantage to evaluate complex chemical mixtures. So that's the reason why HPTLC is dominating the field of herbal drug industry. Okay, herbal material evaluation. So I hope you understood the concept here. So basically, in case of HPTLC, how the things work. So the development of TLC plate is common. Okay. So it is like you take a TLC plate, apply the mixture, and allow the solvent to flow so that the TLC plate is developed. Okay. So once the development is done, then comes one second. Yeah, this is good. Then comes, once the TLC plate is developed, then we keep it under a scanner. Okay, I use the simple term scanner. So this scanner is nothing but a densitometric detector. Densitometry. Maybe you might have heard of this word in detectors used for TLC. Densitometry means the color will be translated into numbers. Color, thickness of color, fluorescence, etc. will be translated into numbers. Okay, so if you translate the thickness of color at every point, that is what we can observe, okay, into numbers. The numbers can be represented as graphs. Okay, so each peak over here is representing a band over here. The area under curve of this peak is intensity of this band. So if you take the individual signal, okay, you can delineate them, absolutely no problem. So this peak is translated into area under curve, and this area under curve will be represented by a graph. Okay, a bar graph like. Ultimately, what you are going to see is a bar graph like this. Okay, so this is what is actually happening. So in case of densitometry, how actually the calculations are taken. So because the sensors will capture the image like this, and then in every pixel, okay, so that entire area, you know what I mean by pixel. Okay, let's say in a square centimeter, if it is divided like this, okay, so how many pixels are there? 9 pixels are there. Okay, if you further divide it, maybe you might have heard of this word pixel in your mobile phone, okay, camera. Okay, so you can have 10 megapixel, 13 megapixel, etc. Mega means 10 power 6. So if you take square centimeter and then divide it into 10 power 6 squares, then each one of the square is called as a pixel. So this much division is what is going to give you megapixels. Okay, so here the software is going to read the thickness of the light, and it will be translated into numbers because the primary colors are red, green, and blue. How much red is there, how much blue is there, how much green is there is what is going to be captured, and then the captured image will be translated into a number. Okay, how much blue is there, how much green is there, how much red is there is calculated, and then that will be translated into number, because as the scanner moves from here to here, at every point the scanning is done. So that's the reason why the densitometric information is translated into a graphical representation like this. So the area under curve in every one of these peak is what is going to give you the quantitative representation of a signal of a compound, which is actually giving you this kind of peak. Okay, so in this way HPTLC works. So to give you one more description, okay, visually also you can see this. In case of HPTLC, you will find 4 types of zones: intense zone, equivalent zone, faint zone, very faint zone. Okay, it means like when we have a chemical or marker substance, when you are using, it will have specific intensity as far as its chemistry is concerned. So when you keep the plate under UV, it will have some intensity. Okay, so when you see their intensity, if it is a lot more intense than the standard compound, we call it as intense. It is falling in the intense zone. The next one is equivalent, means it is almost equal. The next one is faint zone, like this. So here both these compounds are same, but here you can see very, very less as far as the intensity is concerned. Okay, so because when you are diluting the sample, when the quantitatively the sample is going down, obviously it reflects in its intensity. Okay, that is what we knew, Beer-Lambert's law or something like that. Okay, very faint means it is very, 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 very less. So in this way, we can give visual description. Instrument will translate all these things into numbers. So let's see how it works. Let's see how it works. So here I am keeping 5 tracks of PLC chromatograms, where in 1 and 2. Okay, so I have here 5 standard compounds. 5 standard compounds. Okay, so when I keep them in combinations, in different combinations, so here you can see in the first slide, 2 and 6 are there. 2 is hyperoxide, 6 is chlorogenic acid. Okay, it's a polyphenolic compounds. And in the second track, what did we keep? 1 and 2, isoquercetin and hyperoxide. Isoquercetin and hyperoxide. In the third, 3 and 6 means isobutexene, a flavonide, and then 6 chlorogenic acid. And in the fourth one, we have 1 and 5 means rutin and isoquercetin. On the last one, what is it that we have is 4 and 3. 4 and 3, epigenin and isobutexene. Okay, so here our objective is to find how many of the mixtures are carrying the hyperoxide or chlorogenic acid, either together or at least one. So I gave you 5 mixtures. And then when you run the TLC, here you can see color, RF value. Okay, color of the fluorescence as well as RF value. If you see both these, in the first and third, you can see the presence of 6 because it is blue in color and RF value is also same. And in 1 and 2 tracks, you can see presence of the hyperoxide. You can see a faint difference in the color between 1 and 2. Okay, because these are all polyphenols, phenolic chemicals, so you will find similar kind of situations. Whereas in case of this one, 3, isobutexene is also a flavonoid. Okay, so its RF value is almost matching, but the color intensity is different. Then you don't have the hyperoxide here, but we have chlorogenic acid. So in all these 3, we have at least one of the target compounds. So here, if you see the track number 4 and 5, you neither have chlorogenic acid or hyperoxide. So the 2 compounds that we have are completely different. They contain completely different color, completely different RF values. In case of 4, the intensity or colors are different as well as RF values are also different. So in this way, we can easily differentiate if a mixture of chemicals are given. if you are looking for some standard compound, either presence or absence of a standard compound, you can simply keep the standard compounds and also the test samples in different tracks on the same HPTLC plate and run, so that you can clearly see from the RF values and color of fluorescence, etc. You can clearly see presence or absence of a particular compound. Okay. So this is the way how, in case of HPTLC, we can identify, means it is more like yes or no kind of answer. Yes or no kind of answer. And we also knew that quantitative information can also be obtained. As I explained, in case of densitometric analysis, it also gives us the answer, especially in plus or minus type of answer, as well as quantitative. Okay. Now I have, friends, is it very clear to you how we can make use of HPTLC for qualitative and quantitative analysis? Is the concept clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So I'm having here a few examples. Let's say lavender oil is there. Okay. So lavandula species, from there, from the flowers, we get lavender oil. Here, different kinds of species are there. Some of them are highly potent because they contain a lot of linalool and linalyl acetate. They are used as sedatives. And some of them are there, others are there, which are only for flowering purposes. Not too much therapeutic application will not be there, where linalool and linalyl acetate will not be there. So when scientists did some research work, one of them is, in case of lavender oil, in most of the cases, essential oils are very costly. Sometimes they are colored, sometimes they are not colored, but they are very, very costly. So usually pilferation happens in case of volatile oils. By addition of fixed oils. Okay, fixed oils are mixed with volatile oils. So whenever you buy any volatile oil, and when you check it for stain test, they will always pass. Okay, so that is easily we can find out. Okay, so here scientists have solved two problems. Substandard oil means oil obtained from spoiled flowers. Okay, one is somewhat material which is not of very good quality. Means you have collected the flowers and you have kept it for a lot of time in the storage. Then you are using it for production of a particular fixed oil. Okay, so when you are keeping in a storage condition, there is every possibility that degradation may happen sometimes. So oil looks like the same and the smell also will be almost the same. Okay, it is not very easy to detect mild differences, especially in case of strongly smelling volatile oils. So here what they have done is, they have taken the standard volatile oil and then they used, they have taken lavender flower and then the extract is kept over here, and then the remaining 3 tracks are the volatile oils that are obtained from lavender flower, which is of 2 years old, 1 year old and 0 years old. Okay, means fresh oil. So you can clearly see that there is significant loss of a particular chemical compound over here. Okay, that is missing. Okay, so here also you can see another chemical is also missing. Okay, so here you can see lavandin flower is taken and then they have done the comparative study. So here, what is it that you are able to see? We are able to see that a chemical is missing as it is aging. Okay, as the sample is aging, you are losing a secondary metabolite. And in case of the remaining part, you can see one specific chemical is over here. One specific chemical is over here. Okay, means in case of flower, if you take the extract directly, okay, usually volatile oils are obtained via distillation, solvent extraction, etc. Okay, solvent extraction is also used but not often. So in case of volatile oil distillation, oils that are obtained via distillation procedure or hydrodistillation, etc., many of the chemicals that are actually there in the flowers, non-volatile chemicals will not come. Okay, but when you take a flower and extract, some chemical is coming over here. Okay, in that way you can differentiate the oils that are obtained from flowers directly by using solvent extraction, and also the oils that are obtained via volatile oil distillation type of mechanism. Okay, so from the single run, we are able to evaluate 3 test samples, 2 standard samples together, and a lot of information is available. Let's say if we have a standard chemical which is having RF value over here, maybe linolyl acetate or linalool, then we can say that we can comment on presence or absence of a specific chemical also. So we always have to see what is the developing reagent that we are using. N-aldehyde reagent is used, and at white light means in simple tubelet we are able to observe all these things. Okay, so in this way we can say yes or no kind of answer, whether the oil is of good quality or bad quality. So in this analysis, we are not using anything like quantitative analysis is not used over here in this type of analysis. So densitometric analysis is not needed, only a simple HPTLC plate analysis. The entire cost of the entire analysis may be around 25 to 50 rupees only. Okay, so it is quick, comprehensive, and a lot of information is obtained. So as I told you, second type of adulteration that can happen in case of volatile oils is presence of fixed oils. Fixed oils or volatile oils are usually analyzed by gas chromatography. Okay, so here I am comparing both these. Sage oil is what is actually evaluated over here. So as I told you, we just don't bother about physicochemical features of any oil, because physicochemical features of any chemical, any substance, is actually resulting out of its own chemistry. Okay, so if you take the chemistry part and evaluate it, that directly reflects whatever quality that you are ascribing to a specific chemical or formulation. Okay, if a chemical is red in color, we don't bother about whether it is red or blue or green. Okay, red color is coming because of extended conjugation, maybe extended conjugation through nitrogen or through carbons, like in case of carotene, it can be there. Okay, so that is the way how chemistry gives a lot of information rather than physicochemical features, etc. So here what they have done is they have simply taken the volatile oils and the standard oil, volatile oils as well as fixed oils, and then they mixed it. So they have analyzed it. So you can see the tracks. Okay, so whenever we have some extra spots, that indicates clearly adulteration of sample. Okay, so you can see, like in case of corn oil, you can have specific signature. In case of olive oil, you can have specific signature. And if there is any adulteration of olive oil with other materials, you can clearly see change in either qualitative and quantitative change in the fatty acid composition of that oil. That is clearly reflecting in HPTLC analysis. Okay. Now, we have we are going a little bit further now. So far what we have seen is how we can detect adulteration in case of oils, and even in case of plant materials also we can use the same strategy to directly see visual comparison, or by using densitometric analysis, we can comment on purity and either qualitatively and quantitatively the purity of the sample can be easily evaluated. So here I gave you one example of a nutraceutical, Ilex paraguensis. So this is actually a health drink that is taken in North American regions, South American regions largely. In the same way as we take this one, some of the health drinks are there, no? For improving our health or something like that. So what they have done is they have taken this is what we call it as mate leaf. They have taken some of the signature chemicals like caffeine, rutin, chlorogenic acid. These are the three chemicals that are already isolated from mate leaf, already isolated. So they wanted to know, because when you are preparing a health drink on large scale, what will happen? You need to grow the material in different parts of the country in an appropriate environment, and then you have to collect it. That means for your industry, the source material is coming from more than, the starting material is coming from more than one source. Then how can you compare all of them at the same time? Simultaneously, you have to evaluate what is the genuinity, okay, how good is the starting material. So this is one such typical problem where they have collected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different samples obtained from various resources, and then they have taken the extract and then compared with the 3 standard molecules: caffeine, chlorogenic acid, and rutin. You can see clearly in all of them we have the different chemicals, all are matching, okay, except this one, all are matching. So what is the meaning of this? It means this is what we call it as chemotaxonomy. So all these plants are one and the same, okay, all these belong to same species. It is more like that, at least same genus, okay. And then you can comment like the sample obtained from this source has very less rutin, very less rutin. This is rutin, this is caffeine, this is chlorogenic acid, okay. So it does not have much rutin. In that way we can find out which sample is actually giving very good quality material, okay. So this is visual under UV, visual representation under UV, and here spray reagent, and then under UV fluorescence is coming, so fluorescence can be easily detected. So it also shows you very clearly that every detection mechanism has its own lacunae, like caffeine cannot be seen over here, there is no caffeine over here, okay. So that's the reason why the HPLC has to be done in the detection part. You have to be very careful. And this is somewhat no, if you go a little bit further, now how many samples we can analyze, okay, simultaneously. So here in this report, scientists have screened 34 different samples of the species A. gigas, okay, the same. One second, okay, so 34 different plants are compared. You can see the reproducibility of the TLC chromatogram. In almost all signals, you can see similar kind of appearances, except here and here and here, a little bit of less intensity is there. You can also find minor differences here and there, but overall, it is almost like a fingerprint. So the uniformity of the quality, especially in case of herbs, can be easily studied by using HPLC. Simultaneously, samples obtained from multiple sources can be screened. The next one is, in this you can see multiple herbs obtained from Apiaceae family. Okay, Apiaceae family. So here this is UV and this is also UV observation. This is visual. This is UV. Okay, so various samples were analyzed so that you can see every one of the plant has something like a fingerprint. It is almost like a fingerprint. And here you can see at this track. Okay, so in many of the plants you can see presence of this particular specific chemical. Now here also you can see here, and here also you have that signal. Very less concentration is over here. So in this way you can see this is an outlier. There is nothing here. So you cannot find anything over here. So this is a very poor source of a specific chemical like this. So if you wanted to first see which type of plant material can provide you large quantity of a routine, large quantity of a specific biochemical, then HPTLC can be used for easily identifying or screening various plants for specific presence of a chemical, and which is a better source of varied secondary metabolites can also be easily seen by using HPTLC. So in this way, herbal drug evaluation can be done more productively by using HPTLC. Okay, so this is another example of how we can compare chemistries of various gums. Okay, various gums. It is not only limited to simple herbal materials and organic compounds of simple chemistry. Can you evaluate a gum by using any other chemical method or physicochemical method except viscosity, pH, etc.? We cannot determine the chemistry easily even by using NMR because it is a very complicated picture will come. Whereas in case of HPTLC, because if anything goes wrong, the plate will be thrown out. Absolutely no problem. Okay, hardly it costs about 100 to 200 rupees. Absolutely no problem. But if you try similar kind of a thing on HPLC column, if it is stuck, you have to throw it out. Okay, so if you are throwing it out, and how much charge it will be? More than 10,000 rupees. Okay? And very complicated mixtures. Some of the examples like polymers, like gums. Okay, they pose unique challenges. So here in this way, HPTLC can also offer its help in evaluating excipients like gum acacia, agar, gum tragacan, isbogol seeds, psyllium seeds, etc., where complex carbohydrates are there. Okay, so several such samples are evaluated to find out similarity and diversity in their chemistry. Recently, HPTLC also went into stability testing of herbal formulations. Let's say if we have herbal drugs which are formulated into tablets or capsules or something like that, how can you evaluate them? We already knew that herbal materials are of very complicated nature as far as chemistry is concerned. Let's say if you are taking herbal formulations where more than one herb will be there, obviously, then how can you study their stability? Because you need to, because whenever you are keeping any drug in a formulation form and releasing it into market, you have to declare the half-life. You have to give expiry date. On what basis you will give expiry date? Okay, HPTLC offers you a very good solution to study half-life of any formulation. Okay, so stability testing can be done. So that here what we are going to study, we are going to see the fingerprint of the herbal material and whether the fingerprint remains the same or new spots are coming or old spots are remaining and their intensity is remaining or not is what we have to see. So here what we are going to do is we will always run two tracks. One is what we call it as standard. This is test. Here, standard does not mean that this type of chemicals will be there. No, it is not like that. This is like relative positioning of the signal. So if this is there, with respect to this, what is the RF value of the remaining substances is what we are going to monitor. So here normally a reasonably polar and reasonably middle polar, two chemicals are going to be mixed and then used as internal standards. Not internal standards, but you always have two tracks. One track over here, another track over here. Here we are going to apply this mixture. Here the test sample. It is like this. So with the time, is there any change in the RF value? There is no change, no change, no change, no change, and no change. Okay, so it is like this. If any chemical is changing its chemistry, that is going to easily reflect in the HPTLC pattern. So even in herbal drug formulation stability testing also, we can make use of HPTLC. Okay, so its applications are now innumerable. Okay, so its applications are now innumerable because HPTLC is going to give you the complete picture of the chemistry of any chemical mixture. So if you wanted to say standard, first you define the chemical mixture combination of the standard. So normally we cannot define it in any other manner, but HPTLC gives you a practical manner via which we can simply represent the complex in chemistry in the form of chromatogram. Chromatogram is like a fingerprint. Further, HPTLC detection system is there via densitometric analysis. We can also study the quantitative representations. Okay. So friends, this is the way how HPTLC is going to be of immense use as far as herbal drug evaluation is concerned. Okay. So this is only an introduction. I will present you some of the case studies in the next class. Okay. So I shall conclude the session now.